First up is Shithouse. This movie just came out this year, and it is written, directed, and starring Cooper Raff, who came out of nowhere. And then it also stars Dylan, I don't mess with last name, Kalula, who, if you remember from First Girl I Loved, which I crazy loved. But then, spoilers, I also really loved this movie too. It's great. The basic premise is that Cooper there, it's his first semester at college, and he is struggling and hard. He's got so much homesickness. He doesn't know what to do with himself. He's struggling to make friends. He wants to go home, but he doesn't want to go home. He just doesn't know how to be. But then one night he kind of pushes himself and goes out to a party with his really awful roommate. And then he runs into his RA there, and they end up going on kind of a little adventure. And yeah, this movie is, it's so good. I'm excited to talk about this. This movie is basically a giant nostalgia trip for me. I recognize so many characters and situations that actually happened and people I actually met at college. I was homesick my first week at college. I'm this guy's first 6 months. So I'd 100% related to that though. And then just the struggle to make friends. How the hell do you make friends, especially at college? What is this? How do you, do you remember making friends when you were in second grade? No. So how do you do it now that you're 18, 19, 20 years old? But yeah, also just randomly going on a walk with a girl after a party. I did that. And so, oh God, I was just flashing back the entire time, all these memories coming back to me. And I just loved that in and of itself. So I recommend it just based on the fact of if you've gone to college or you're going to go to college, this will probably do the same for you. Maybe not the same extent as me, but probably. I will warn you though that this movie is different in the sense that characters talk different than in regular movies. It's not that it's being ad-libbed. It just feels more there's these awkward pauses where characters are just trying to figure out what they're going to say next, not because they're making stuff up, but because they're just trying to decide how much of themselves they're going to give to the other person. And it just feels very true to life. And I don't know, man, it's really cool and really fascinating. I can definitely see if people don't like this style of line delivery of acting, but I really liked it and really enjoyed it. And so yeah, I definitely 100% recommend the hell out of this movie. I'm very excited to see what happens with both those actors. I think they're so talented. Yeah, it's really, really good. Watch Shithouse. Yeah. Next up is Air Force One. This is a 1997 movie starring Harrison Ford. Ooh, my fifth one of him. He plays the President of the United States of America. And then it also stars Gary Oldman, my third one of him, and he plays a bad guy. What? Gary Oldman never plays a bad guy. That's so weird for him. That's sarcasm. He plays bad guys all the time. Anyway, so yeah, it's about some terrorists led by Gary Oldman take the plane that Harrison Ford, the president, goes on. Air Force One, that's what it's called. I'm explaining this so well. But yeah, it's an interesting movie. It's kind of like a dad movie. I think I had it confused with either U.S. Marshals or The Fugitive. I know what The Fugitive's about, but I think I was picturing some stuff that happened in that movie that I thought had happened in this movie, and it definitely does not. This movie's fine. It's very of its time. It's very 90s. The effects are very 90s. The premise is very 90s. Yeah, it's all right. What I loved about it, though, was that just trying to picture Trump doing any of the action hero things that Harrison Ford does. Basically, this movie is Die Hard on a plane starring the president. And it's at every situation, I'm no, Trump would just run away. Trump would just throw people in front of him. Trump would just immediately give the terrorists everything they wanted. And it was just it was really funny. But then I found out after the fact that Trump actually really likes this movie, and I'm why? You are the exact opposite of Harrison Ford in this movie. You couldn't do anything that he did. You wouldn't sacrifice yourself for anyone. Why do you like this movie? I want someone to remake this movie with Trump in it though, because I think that'd be really, really funny. But yeah, it's alright, it's fine. I guess if you could rewatch it if you liked it as a kid or something. I don't know. And lastly is Flower. This is a 2018 movie starring Zoe Deutsch. I don't know if it's actually how you say her name. She was in Zombieland Double Tapped, which was pretty good, and she was actually really a highlight of that. Anyway, the basic premise of this movie is that Zoe plays this high school girl who likes to go around seducing older men, giving them blowjobs, filming herself giving them blowjobs, and then blackmailing them into giving her money to help pay for her dad's bail. That's only part of it. The rest is she then teams up with her future stepbrother to take down the high school teacher that may or may not have sexually assaulted him, while constantly fat-shaming her future brother-in-law and also hitting on him at the same time. Offering him lots of blowjobs. It's really weird. Yeah, this movie has a really weird premise, and it doesn't work. It also has like a really, really, really unlikable main character where I'm just constantly yelling at the TV, being like, "Stop it! You do better." Yeah, it's just not good. I've been kind of circling this movie for a while just because it kind of intrigued me, and then like I took it off my list because I'm just like, oh, I didn't get good reviews. But then I was like, you know what? Dylan Galula from the first movie I talked about, she was in this, and I was like, oh, I want to see her in more stuff. It'll be worth it. And she is in it for a very small amount of time, and it did not make it worth it. She did fine, but yeah, this movie's bad. Don't watch it. That's it. It's bad.